Hello and welcome to the digital edition of the Jerusalem Writers Festival in Mishkenot Sha'ananim. In fact, we're not really in Mishkenot Sha'ananim, not even in Jerusalem. My name is Dror Mishani and I'm in Tel Aviv, and I'm very happy to talk today to Leonie Swann, a German crime writer who is in Cambridge in the UK. Hi, Leonie.
Hello, hi. Nice to see you, sort of.
Yeah, you too. We should have met in Jerusalem. Are you disappointed that you're not there?
Very disappointed. And I bet the weather's really lovely and I've been looking forward to it a lot. So yes, but here we are.
Was it supposed to be your first time in Jerusalem, or were you?
Jerusalem before, because at school we did an exchange with I think Be'er, and part of that visit, I also came to Jerusalem and saw it, but it was only a day or two, so I would have loved to come back after all these years. And and obviously always lovely meeting fellow writers and exchanging views and opinions, and see that you're not alone in the world. So I miss that.
Yeah. So this may for us maybe. One of the setbacks of this coronavirus. Another setback that I find really irritating is that while nobody goes to work except doctors, or almost nobody goes to work except doctors, I'm constantly being asked if I'm writing a novel, if I'm taking advantage of this time at home to write a novel, and I'm tired of saying, no, I'm not writing a novel. It's not a good time, at least not for me to write a novel. Maybe you are?
I am writing a novel. I actually started a project before this whole corona thing started. So at the moment, I'm just trying to keep on track with that. And my personal life hasn't changed an awful lot because I live in the countryside and writing is my main job. So I usually sit in a room and write. So everyday life hasn't changed dramatically. But at the same time, it feels completely different, because if you can't go out, if you can't do anything else, it's a completely different story. I also really feel that the whole research thing that comes with writing a novel is completely blocked in a way. All I can do is sort of talk to people on the phone. And I was supposed to be on a cruise, I think 2 weeks ago or so. I had booked a cruise for my life, because my next novel is set on a cruise ship.
Okay.
And the worst timing out. I've never been on a cruise, so I'll have to do one before the whole thing starts. And now I have to write a book about a cruise that I've haven't been on a cruise, so it is awkward. But I'm trying to make the best of it. In a way, it sort of helps me to continue with normality, because I've done it before, the writing bit. I try to keep it up now. And it sort of helps to pretend that everything's okay, which obviously it isn't. Yeah. So how about you? Were you just between novels, or do you not feel like writing in this situation?
In fact, the truth is that I'm between novels, and I planned to start writing a novel in the summer. And I hope I'll still do that. But I think that even if I was beginning a novel, I would have found it very difficult to continue it now, because I'm constantly occupied with what's happening outside, constantly checking the news and counting the numbers of new corona patients in Ecuador and in India, and I don't know. So I'm not very concentrated. So it's maybe
I don't find it easy at the moment, and I also find it the problematic of the world has changed so much in such a short time. I constantly ask myself what I had planned to write a few months ago, whether it's still relevant. But I don't think I can write the same book I was planning a few months ago, because it's just a completely different world. But then you don't want to do the one-to-one, corona version of it either. So
no corona novels.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
So, Leonie, if we had met in Jerusalem, we were supposed to talk about the genre that I think we both like to read and especially to write. You wrote until today 3 novels, right? 4 novels.
Nothing more.
What?
1, 2, 3, 4. I've written the 5th one, but it hasn't come out yet. So that's about to come out in Germany in May, actually, if it happens, who knows.
Okay. And your latest novel that is called Gray was just published a year ago in Amoved. And can you tell us a bit about your relationship with the genre that we were supposed to talk about? So, you know, with crime fiction, and do you think of yourself as a crime writer, or is it more complicated than that?
I suppose it's more complicated. I don't think I think of myself as a genre writer at all. So I do like crime novels. I read them myself. I enjoy them, but I don't really think in terms of genre too much. On the other hand, I know that a lot of my readers are crime readers, and they love the crime aspect of the story. And I believe that, in a way, the genre is a kind of gateway that invites readers into the story, because usually you know how crime fiction works. There'll be some kind of crime, and there'll be an attempt to solve it, and that is a structure that the reader can follow, even if my actual story quite deviates from the normal course of the crime story. The fact that everyone knows how crime fiction works gives me the opportunity to play with the genre, to deviate, to change things around a bit, but also gives the reader a sort of framework that helps him to find his way through the story. But as you know, I sometimes have a bit like off-the-wall point of views, like the sheep perspective, or the parrot angle in the latest one. It's not the most evident way of approaching the story, and I think the fact that it's crime fiction eases the reader into the whole thing and makes it more accessible. So that's one of the reasons why I feel that crime suits me very well. And also, I do enjoy good mystery, so I think the mystery aspect of it does really, I find it attractive, and that helps me to get the story going. So yeah,
I'm constantly asked if I know the solution when I start the book, and I'm always saying that one has to know the ending when he starts writing the novel. Is it your case too? Do you always know the ending?
That is rather funny, because I approached a completely different angle. In fact, I think when we had our email exchange, we mentioned the whole question of do's and don'ts in writing, and one of my don'ts would have been do not know the culprit when we start, because for me the fact that I don't know who did it at the beginning helps me to think in all directions and keeps it interesting for me. In a way, I'm my first reader as well, because I try out different angles, and I've got quite a portfolio of possibilities. And later, once you finally found out who the murderer is, you can go back and tidy it up a bit. But for me, it's quite important not to know for personal pleasure, but also for the process of writing. And I always have this really wonderful moment, finally find out, and jump around like, I know who did it, I found it out. And for me, it's a really beautiful moment in the writing of it. And I would like to miss that. So very different approach.
Yeah. Your detective fiction has this uniqueness to them, or one of the unique aspects of them is that they have animals in them, and animals are important, and they have really an important role and a point of view even. How did you come up with the idea? I mean, what was the first click?
It's hard to say. I mean, as a writer, you know very well that tracing it or an idea is quite hard. That generally don't know when the first moment happened. I think the first thing that really nudged me in that direction was the simple word Schafspringen, is German for sheep murder mystery. And please don't ask me why I thought of that, but I did think of it for some weird reason. And I thought, like, this is interesting. How could that look like? Because that was just such a weird thought. And once I started, I realized that it worked really well for me, because there was this sort of fun aspect. You had the crime plot, but at the same time you had the completely unusual angle, which made it also very fun and humorous. For me, humor is quite a big deal. Something that I enjoy reading, and something that definitely is an important part of my book. So, and having these sheep as the heroes of the book really gave me a lot of opportunity to just have fun, basically. And that was how it started. And thinking, that's trying to go a bit deeper, I would say that in a way, what I find attractive in all fiction is the fact that you can sort of leave your own point of view, your own personality, and try on somebody else's shoes, so to say, to be someone different for a certain amount of time, to up to a degree feel what someone else feels, and just sort of have this holiday from yourself, and also have empathy with someone else. And in a way, having an animal point of view is only a more extreme version of that same process. And I quite like to explore the boundaries of that. And I quite like to invite the reader to see the world from a bit of a different angle, because I think it's really valuable to see things from a different angle now and then. And I think that's what makes it interesting for me. And that's what the animal bit offer. And then I like animals.
No, I completely understand. You know, my last novel,
yes,
is called Three, and in English, and Shalosh in Hebrew, and
is
it
it
has.
was it also called Three in Hebrew?
Yes, it's called Three in a feminine gender, because in Hebrew there's a difference.
Okay,
so it's Three in feminine. Yeah. So. In fact, I was asked a lot, why did I choose to write a novel about three female protagonists, and how is it to write from a female point of view? And I keep saying that what I discovered, previously I wrote 3 novels with the same detective, but with different criminals. And what I came to understand is, whenever I write male figures, it doesn't matter if they're, cops or criminals, if they're 5 years old or 75 years old, somehow in the end, they come more or less me. And in my last novel, I wrote for the first time a female protagonist from her point of view. And she came so different than what I could imagine. And the process of writing her was such an adventure, like you described. So I decided that, in the new novel, I'll just write 3 female protagonists and no man at all, or almost no man at all.
And it's also very interesting to see you have these 3 characters, and it's to see the same story from these different angles. It's just really interesting, and good experiment, I think, as well. So did you start it out as a crime fiction novel, or did you just sort of start experimenting with a point of view? But no, you're the one who plans everything in advance, right?
Yes, but exactly, this is how it happened, because I wrote 3 very classic detective novels. And in this novel, what I knew before writing is that I want to have this effect of shock, the shock of violence, the shock of death, in a way. And I thought, in a normal detective story, the reader is somehow prepared for the violence that is coming. He knows, or she knows, that he's going to meet a corpse in page 10 or 20 or 30 or 40. And so, in a way, what I did is wrote a novel that I think about it sometimes as a detective novel in which you don't know where the detective will come and when, or a crime novel in which you don't know when a crime will happen. And also, maybe it's also a detective novel in disguise in a way. You know, it lures you in. You're not supposed to know that it's a crime novel, but then the crime hits you.
Having the point of view of the victims, obviously they don't know and they're in a crime novel until the very last moment, and that's where it really comes to the shock. And quite suddenly, doesn't it? Sort of, it's not like big build up. I mean, you sort of, you know, something is going to happen, but from a victim's point of view, it's just a very sudden affair.
Exactly, and this is, you know, this is what I thought. We have so many crime novels written from the point of view of the detective, the investigator, and so many crime novels written from the point of view of the killer now. And we don't have that much crime novels written from the point of view of the victims, you know, not 10 minutes before, not 10 hours before, not even 10 days before, but like a year before the crime is committed.
I think that makes it so scary in a way, because by the time the crime actually happened, you settled well into the character, and you already know how they work, you're quite familiar, and it works very well, I think. So,
Leonie, I know that, you know, our audience, the one that was supposed to be in Jerusalem, but now will watch us on the web, whenever they see crime writers or even partly crime writers, they want to have some, you know, some do's and don'ts. Some, you know, how can we give them a tip or two to have a good, you know, a good crime plot, a good engaging crime plot?
Well, I already mentioned don't, which would have been don't know the murder in advance. But obviously that only, I know there's different techniques and different approaches. This works for me. And I think if somebody starts writing crime fiction, it's worth giving it a go, trying to sort of, if you don't know the whole case yet, it might be worth just writing sort of in an explorative way and see what happens. So I would encourage people not to hold back until they know everything about a crime and just explore. But obviously it will not work for everyone, and some people might just feel a lot more comfortable having everything work out in advance. That would be one of the ideas that I'd encourage. The other thing really important in all fiction, I think, is to have fun, because you're, in a way, you're your first reader. If you're not enjoying the process, who will? But I think it's really important to allow yourself to be engaged in the whole thing and to enjoy the process. And once you get sort of nervous and tight, things that won't be working so well. And last thing, also suppose applies to all fiction. It's not so much about writing mystery, but generally writing. I think it's important not to stand between your reader and the illusion. I know that sometimes being a writer, you want to show off how well you can write. So you want to write a really nice description, or you want to sort of explore a character, and it can take over. Sometimes it's too much good writing and not so much good storytelling. And I feel that can be detrimental to the actual illusion. I mean, for me, the most important thing in telling any story is to give a reader a feeling of reality, that this really happens, this happens now, and it's really important, it's real. And if somebody is always sort of showing off their beautiful descriptions or their beautiful sentences, that can detract you from that, can sort of distract you. And for me personally, writing is a bit of a disappearing act. I want to be in that novel as little as I possibly can, so that the reader can fully engage with the story without me being in the way. So that's important to me. But obviously, it's not so much constructing mystery. I think especially if you plan this all in advance, you must have a much more technical approach, I imagine. So how do you plan?
No, but that's beautiful what you said about disappearing. Like God that creates the world and then disappears. from the world, or like the camera that, you know, doesn't show itself. But I'm curious, Leonie, do you start with would you recommend a writer, a mystery writer, to start with the detective or with the crime? What would come first?
I would say probably it would be the crime, or more generally a scene. Just having one situation and throw myself or the reader into that situation. This is here, this is happening now. You know. Might be if we find a body, might be somebody disappears in that room and doesn't come out. It's something that sort of grips you as a situation, and then I move on from there and like who's involved, what kind of people are they, what could happen next. Or just sometimes when I write dialogue, it's a bit more just watching people talk. Sometimes I don't really feel that I'm the one doing it all. I sometimes feel like an observer who just happens to write it down. Obviously, only true to a certain degree, but if I can achieve that, that it's not that it sort of happens in a natural way, that usually leads to good scenes, and also can help you pass that point where you feel you're a bit stuck. Because sometimes you're just somewhere and it's not moving, and what you've done next doesn't feel right. But if you just let go of the pressure of having to do something specific and more just explore that what could happen, that for me can be really useful. And so I think also the unexpected is very important, especially in crime novel, but any novel really. And sometimes the unexpected can only happen if you let it.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I think that my advices would be in a way very close to yours. What I tell my creative writing students normally is the first thing, be very, very interested in the crime you're writing about. Be really, you know, passionate about the characters, not just the victims, but even the criminals. Just you need to want to be in their place in a way. And the second thing is, you know, because we are dealing maybe in different ways, but, you know, with mystery and with crimes, be prepared to go to very difficult emotional places. Don't be afraid of, you know, writing very close to sorrow and to grief. I mean, we are in those areas somehow, right? Part of the time.
Yeah, and I think the whole character aspect is just really, really important with any book, any story is only as interesting or engaging as the characters are. If you don't care about it, people don't care about the victim, the detective and the poet, it doesn't really matter what they do. They can get up to the most horrible crimes, but if you're not involved in any of them, it doesn't really get you there emotionally. I think the emotional involvement, as you said, is key.
Leonie, we have to, I think, finish soon, but I wanted to ask, you know, we began by saying that, you know, we should have met in Jerusalem, and, you know, when I look outside, one of the things that I'm missing is not just, you know, book festivals or writers' festivals, but, you know, I see bookshops that are closed. This is how it's here. I don't know how it is in the UK.
Everything's closed here.
Libraries are closed. I mean, it's a bit grim for the. It looks grim for the book. And I mean, specifically now, you know, talking about the book industry, it's a bit sad what we're experiencing.
Something I still hold on to. I feel like at least our product is still really relevant because there's a lot of people having more time on their hands than usual or being more confined than usual. I think a book can be a really good friend under those circumstances. So that's why I take a bit of comfort from. But of course, you have all the whole distribution, the whole book industry is sort of locked in a way at the moment. So,
do you imagine that after this is finished, we'll have a wave of Corona novels?
Well, first thing, I'm not quite sure when there will be the point when this is finished, because I think it's going to be gradual and probably take quite a bit longer than we expect. So I'm not super optimistic. It'll be just over one day, but obviously I think there'll be change in forms, and I think a lot of people are going to write about it, no doubt. The danger of that might be that these novels that all might look quite alike, because a lot of people are having the same experience. And for me, sometimes I feel that if an experience is too close to home, it's doesn't make for such a good book, because the book is about something that has more general interest. If something that just really occupies you, I think we will have a lot of Corona fiction. I'm not sure how much of it I want to read. But you can, of course, especially as a crime writer, there could be a lot of fun that could be had with a practical lockdown. So imagine you've got a body in the boot of your car, and then this lockdown situation happens, you're not allowed to go anywhere anymore. You can see how you can play with it, but I think there's maybe something for in 3-4 years' time, and recovered a bit emotionally from the whole thing.
Yeah, I agree.
How about you? Are you tempted?
No, I'm not tempted at all. Again, like you say, maybe after all this will be finished and we'll digest it somehow and understand exactly what happened in general, and what happened to us as writers, and maybe what happened to the genre that we're writing. So maybe then, but by then we'll be able to talk about it in a real festival.
Wouldn't that be nice?
So I really enjoy talking to you, and I really look forward to you coming to Jerusalem or to Tel Aviv, and meeting for real, like a real meeting, and we can toast and l'chaim, and good luck. Thank you very much, Leonie.
Take care. Be safe.
Bye.
And yes, bye. Thank you.